Hi everyone, my name is Simon Misiewicz from Optimize as usual, but today I have a very special guest with me today in Nikola Ninoshev. He is a property portfolio builder for his clients in West Yorkshire. So without me going rambling through, let me first of all bring in Nikola. Why don't you do your own introduction, and maybe it starts with your name, whether it's Nikola, Nico, or something else to make it easier for other people.
Hi, Simon. So first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's something amazing that you're doing, so I really appreciate being here. So I'm Nikola Ninoshev, but everyone calls me Nico. I'm a professional property portfolio builder and property investment consultant based in West Yorkshire.
And just we're going to talk about West Yorkshire later on. But one of the things I like about the idea of a property portfolio building service is I'm going to talk to you, who's watching this, a bit about my background. So years and years and years ago, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to be sounding too old for you guys, but I was a consultant. I was working all over the UK. My wife was also a consultant working for large companies as well, but she was mostly in London and too busy to look at property. And we made some mistakes because we didn't have the time to look at properties very well. So we chose an area. We got lucky, actually. It wasn't too much of a bad issue. But if I'm totally honest with you, if we had someone that could build a property portfolio for us so that we could focus on our jobs and our businesses, I think we would have been more successful in our businesses because we don't have the panic, the stress, and the worry of our properties. And we would have bought better properties with high yields. And Nicola is going to go through some examples on that. But would you echo some of the things I've just explained and my own background in terms of your own clients?
Yes, absolutely. So property investors don't need to be property experts. And I help busy professionals build their portfolios. I specialize mostly in buy-to-let properties and as well as buy, refurbish, refinance strategy. So a lot of people are spending maybe 50, 60 hours a week, working hard, earning a lot of money, and then they're wondering what to do with their money in a way to have a successful investment. So a lot of people go to stocks and shares, other people go to property, but not everyone is a property expert. And property is simple, but it's not easy. In order to be successful in property investment, you either need to have a really good property education or you need to spend a lot of time on it. And busy professionals just don't have the time because they need to focus either on their job, on their own business. So this is where I come in. I've invested a lot of hours and a lot of money into my education so I can help busy professionals, people working in the NHS, business owners, people that are putting 50, 60 hours a week. And what I do for them is a process from start to end. So it's a hands-free portfolio building services. I find the properties, I negotiate the price, I take the property through legals, then I project manage the refurb, and I provide the best letting agents for the area. I tailor the strategy depending on what the property investors actually want and what the people want. And this, of course, this saves you time. You can focus on your business while I do everything for you in the background.
Yeah, and I think that's quite essential. One of the things that I really liked on your LinkedIn, the networking of choice, of course, for online.
Of course.
But one of the things I looked at your profile was I'm very much about succession planning, bringing your family into the business. And we talked about, and there's also posts that you made about education. And I think we both echo the point of the standard education that we have in place lets our children down. It doesn't talk about finances. And for me in particular, I think that AI technology is moving so quickly that education standard system cannot keep up with the advances that technology is making and the way that society and sociological changes are going to impact us. Education's dead and done and dusted for me. And it was really interesting how you brought your son into a point. So without going into the details about who your son is, I don't think that's appropriate. But I
Yeah.
think what would be quite good is why you did that. Why did you get your son to go around? And actually, your son looks very happy, I have to say, by doing the things that he does.
Yes, he definitely does. So let's get point by point. So first of all, let's start with education. So I'm Bulgarian, and my education, most of it, I spent it in Bulgaria, and I graduated management from uni. And I had a successful career in management in Bulgaria. Then I was a sommelier. I was a curator of the wine museum in Bulgaria. So I was a professional wine taster. Then I moved to the UK about 15 years ago. And I've noticed that when I brought my eldest son here, he was about 7, 8 years old. I've noticed something when I started talking to him about money, because that time came, and he never learned anything about money in school. And then I thought, wait a minute, I finished management, but nobody told me anything about money, about the important things, the things that are important in life. So, for example, nobody told me about mortgages. Nobody told me about investments. I was just studying for a 9 to 5. And thinking about this, it came to me that we just don't get proper education in school. Not here, not on the other side of the continent. We just don't have proper financial education. Our kids right now are not prepared for the real life. They're not prepared how to handle money, just the simple basics, not to mention investing. So when I started in property, and I had other businesses before that, and I decided that I am going to be the one that's going to educate my kids, not just how to be good people, because that's what obviously as parents is what we want, but actually how to handle money and what to do with money, how to think about money, what money actually is. These are things that were not taught in school, and I'm a really big advocate about financial education and entrepreneurial education in school. So on the next point about my youngest, so he's a very extroverted kid, and when I started in property, he was about 2, 3 years old, and I decided that I'm gonna take him with me to a viewing. Pretty much didn't have the choice because our babysitter canceled on me. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna take him with me. And he started talking to the estate agent as a 3 year old, and he started actually liking it. So since then, that was 3.5 years ago, I've been taking him with me on viewings, on negotiations. We are sitting together. You can see on my social media how he's sitting on my computer. He's analyzing deals. He's looking for properties. He's actually into the whole property game now, and he's really interested in going out there, viewing houses. When I take him on viewings, he actually spots and notices things that I can miss. And this is something that is really, it feels good. It feels good that my kids are starting from a young age. My eldest, he's not really into property because he said he wanted to make his own way in life. And I totally respect that. And I respect him for doing this. But he's helping as well because we've turned property into kind of a family business. So my wife is helping a bit, but she's really busy with her own business. And the eldest is helping on the social media side a bit. And the little man is everywhere with me now. And he's really happy about this. So your listeners, your viewers can just go on social media, have a look at photos, videos. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I think we'll move on from that point, but anyone listening, it's really important to think about succession planning. when you depart from this soil that we're all sharing right now, who is taking over, and do they actually want it? So I've done a few sessions previously with parents and asked them to bring their kids to these sessions. And the parents said they're quite proud to talk about their property portfolio that they built, which is very, very common. It's a great comment to make. And they should feel proud about what they've done, and they talk about it. And then I look over to the children, and the children are saying, "We do not want it." And the smiles of joy from the parents turn into shock, horror, disappointment, worry, because they've been building this portfolio up for their children, and yet the children don't want it. So when you talk about succession planning, passing things over to your children, make sure you actually speak to your children, because otherwise you may have to question why you're doing anything in life, not just property. It could be businesses. But if you've got an idea, well, my kids will just take over, think again, unless you speak to them. And Nicola, hats off to you, because it's a very rare. So people talk about, getting their family involved, but you live and breathe it. And your son, like I say, he's very much enjoying it. So hats off to you. I really want to see some more of that, because I think it's totally inspirational. It will get more people to do it. I firmly believe that. But it's not just talking about it, people seeing you do it. And I think that goes a long way. So thank you.
Just a final point on this. It's not about passing it down to them. It's about getting them ready. So when they grow up, they won't need anybody passing anything on to them.
Right.
They will be ready and do it themselves. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, I think there's a debate on that one. But
that's my point of view.
Yeah, exactly. But I think what you're doing, though, is very inspiring, just to get him involved. And if he takes over the business, he will take the whole lot, right? And that's
absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
But, I know parents will say that I don't want to give my kids anything. What they've got from me is the education. That's a whole big point. But I just kind of want to highlight the brilliance of what you are doing. So let's go over to the next slide then, Nicola, and let's see what else we can talk about today.
So let's talk about, first of all, why property? Property is a tangible asset. It's made out of bricks. You can touch it. You can actually walk through the door. You can feel it. And I don't want to be swagging off crypto or stocks and shares, because I invest in crypto, I invest in stocks and shares, but only 10% of my investment pool goes towards these assets. The main thing that I invest in right now is property. And for a good reason, especially in the UK. The UK property market is the most stable and profitable property market in the whole of Europe. There's no doubt about it, no second opinion. And let's go to why West Yorkshire. Well, first of all, West Yorkshire, I like to call it the Goldilocks zone. It's right in the middle, and it's got just the average and the perfect rates for just entering. So if you want to invest in the south, that's fantastic. But then the entry barrier is really high. If you want to invest in London, you're going to get really high capital appreciation. You're going to get really good returns down the road. However, in order to get into property investing in London, you need to start with one property, which will be about £300,000 to £400,000. In Yorkshire, the average investment property price is about between £120,000 and £150,000. There are high rental yields up north, especially in the northeast, but then you don't have the capital appreciation that much in the northeast. And that's why I called West Yorkshire the Goldilocks zone. You've got the nice rental returns. You've got the very good capital appreciation, which is just over the national average. And of course, the population. The West Yorkshire population is about 2.4 million. So it's more edging 2.5 now, which gives us a very broad tenant pool. Because as property investors, this is what we do. We need to find the best tenants for our properties. Another reason, Leeds is the largest financial and legal hub outside of London. It's an absolute economic powerhouse. There's plenty of universities and colleges as well. Just in Leeds, there's 3 universities. We've got Bradford Uni, we've got Huddersfield University. So then we've got massive employers, as the Morrisons, Channel 4, Denson, Nestle, Haribo, Burberry. That brings long-term tenants to us, because if we invest in the regions that are close to these big employers and these big companies, then we can make sure that our tenants are actually going to stay there for longer. They're going to build their families in these houses. They're going to make these houses their homes. And this is what we're after. Of course, there's the quality of life, the affordability. So the housing is more affordable than what it is in the south. And that gives us high quality of life at lower cost. And at this day and age, especially with everything that's happening, people are trying to cut on expenses as much as possible. By the way, I've read something in an article, it was last week, about 10% of all the people that left London to go to live somewhere up north, about 10% of them went to Leeds, which is massive. Another thing, regeneration and infrastructure. Now, this is a very big one. This is the catalyst for growth. So I've just mentioned here a few regeneration projects. So one of the biggest ones at the moment in West Yorkshire, that is Leeds South Bank. That's £500 million spent only on this one. So Bradford is the City of Culture 2025. They've spent quite a lot of money on this. And for the City Village project, they've spent about £30 million. They're talking about the Northern Powerhouse being built in and around Bradford. Well, this is still a wishful thinking in my opinion, but hopefully this will happen. Huddersfield Cultural Health Project, 210 million. Halifax Peace Hall, probably everyone knows about the Peace Hall in Halifax. And there's a massive regeneration project, which I made actually a video right in the middle of the roadwork. It's the A629 Halifax Gateway project, which creates a really sustainable way of travel and living for Halifax. It changes Halifax completely, and Halifax is becoming a really popular investment hotspot right now. Of course, everyone that's been to Yorkshire knows about the transport links. Apart from direct rail lines to London, and it's about 2 hours from Leeds with train, and half an hour from Manchester, we've got plenty of motorways as well. The M1, the A1M, M62, M621, M606. These are all interconnected motorways right in the middle of West Yorkshire. So I operate in the towns and cities of Halifax, Huddersfield, Bradford, Leeds and Wakefield. Each one of these towns and cities is not more than 20 minutes drive from each other, which means that it don't really matter where exactly you're going to invest, what your strategy is going to be, because different towns and cities, different areas got different investment strategies, and we can dip a bit more into this. But West Yorkshire is so well connected that if you invest in any of these 5 towns and cities, your portfolio is within 20 minutes drive. Each house is within 20 minutes drive of the other. And there is significant transport investment. The Transpennine route upgrade, so new rail stations are being built, and of course the Northern Powerhouse, which I've mentioned.
Just on that point, Nicola, and I think this is a really good reason why people should invest in West Yorkshire. Not only are the property prices significant, and you mentioned, did you say 150, 180,000 it could get you?
Between 120, between 120,000 and 150,000.
Oh,
that
okay.
is the average.
Right. Because
There
that,
are,
thinking
yeah,
about the average in just England itself, is touching on 300,000. So we're
yes,
talking about half the amount of investment, and yet you've got all of these things going for it in terms of big businesses, transportation links, just every connection going on. And you're back to your point of people moving from London, which is super expensive, moving to these big businesses that's in Leeds. Let's be fair about it. They're not just going up there, not working. A lot of them are going to be working in these financial sector hubs, which in Leeds, there's plenty of them. But for them to be able to buy property or rent property, some people will move and work up into the northern parts and still have a place in London. So, there's a lot going for it, just by what you've said.
yes, yes, there is. And another reason why Yorkshire is so popular is because it's very close to Manchester as well. Because you can work in Manchester, or Leeds, but even Manchester, because Manchester, let's face it, it's a really big city. And a lot of people are working there because there's massive job opportunities. But some of them live in Huddersfield because it's only 20 minutes drive from Manchester, but it's half the price in rents.
Yeah, which is significant, isn't it? Now, you've got an example
Absolutely.
of a property investment, haven't you? So, do you want to go to that
I
example?
do, yes. Yes, I will jump on that example. So this is a property this is a deal that I've done in Leeds. It's in one of the more affluent Leeds areas. And so the purchase price here is 180,000. It's a bit higher than the average, but that's why it's average. But this one here, the rental income is £1,250, which is really good for West Yorkshire. So there are areas in Yorkshire where you can buy a property for £80,000, £90,000, but then your strategy will be different. For this specific property, I'm gonna just run through the numbers. The total cash needed from the investor was just over £60,000. The property was almost turnkey. We just needed to fix up the garden a little bit. And just put some paint here and there. So the fully managed refurb was about £2,500. The monthly cash flow on this property is £421, which is really good for Yorkshire because the average is about £250 to £270 a month, the average monthly cash flow from properties in Yorkshire. So if we get a property in Huddersfield, for example, the purchase price will be around £100 to £110,000. But then the monthly cash flow will be just about over 220 to £250,000. So if we invest in a bit more expensive property, specifically in West Yorkshire, we're gonna get a bit of a high monthly cash flow, but that all depends on the strategy. So the ROCE, which a lot of people use the term ROI, which is return on investment. I prefer it to call it ROCE. In this case, this is a return on capital employed. So this is 8.37%, which is pretty much the average for Yorkshire. And this is a very important number because people sometimes underestimate the power of capital appreciation and the power of how much houses, especially in this specific area, which is a more affluent area, increase. So from year 1 to year 5, on an annual basis, there is a 20% return on investment. That is based on 4% growth of the property price per year, of the value of the property. A lot of people underestimate capital appreciation and they think, oh, okay, well, from one property, I'm going to make 200, 300, maybe 400 pounds a month. That's not enough. Yes, it's not enough, but let's remember that this is an investment. This is a long-term investment. It's not something that's going to make you rich tomorrow. And I really don't like the word rich as well, but we might dip into this. Property is not a get rich quick. It's get wealthy, definitely, but in about 10 years.
Well, can I,
No.
however, one thing I would say about this strategy itself, and I just want to focus on the 8.37% because for you guys listening to this video, and Nicola is taking you through a live example, 8.37%, how much can you get interest from your bank accounts right now? Probably 1, 2% if you're lucky. What about a long-term savings account in your building society? Maybe 4, 5, 6%, again, if you're very lucky. And then you are tied in as well. You have certain tied in rules. We're talking about an 8.37%. And the one thing I like about property, which is echoing what Nicola's already said, is the fact that it's not just the 8.37, it's capital appreciation. Your money, your bank account only grows by adding interest. But that's kind of, it's not growing the capital as well. That's really only if you add the interest to it. But it's not really capital growth, it's just the amount of interest you've earned. Now, that works well over 5 years because you do get compound interest. I get that. But we're talking about 8.37% plus the capital growth that you'll get as well. So this really is a double whammy in terms of investments. And back to your point, Nicola, it's not like shares where if a share plummets to the ground, and we've seen a few of those happen in the last few years, you lose all your money because guess what? You're only holding a piece of paper. No one can, take that bricks and mortar away from you and that piece of land that you own. That is yours. And I think that is pretty much something you've echoed about people wanting to invest in the UK is because it is safe. People, governments cannot take your property away from you.
Yes, and it's not only about being in property, it's about investing long term. Here I want to make a point. We need to make a difference between property investors and landlords, and also we need to make a difference between investors and traders. So a lot of people think that you can just put money into something and then pull it out the next year. That is trading, or the next day, or overnight. You just see the price jump and you pull it out and you make profit. It's not exactly how it works with property. This is a long-term strategy and this is an investment. Of course, we do property trading. They are also known as property flips. So we buy the property, we refurbish it, we increase the value, then we sell it for a profit. But this is not something that is very common. The most common type of investment in property in the UK is a buy-to-let. And about 90% of the people that invest in property invest in buy-to-let. Another point I want to make here is investor versus a landlord. So a property investor invests in the property and everything else is handled by someone else. So the property is found, negotiated, project managed and let by people like me. Then the property, the tenants and all that is managed by a letting agent. The property investor does not have deeper involvement into the whole process. They just invest, put money in and wait. They get their profit and they wait. Landlords, they try to do everything themselves, especially with the management side of the business. They try to manage tenants themselves. They get phone calls at 12 o'clock at night, internet stopped, pipe is leaking, boiler's broken. I would not advise my investors on doing this because this is what landlords do. I'm trying to build portfolios for investors, which are also busy professionals. For example, if you're working in the NHS, you're coming back home from a 12-hour shift. Can you imagine your phone ringing 1 hour after you went to bed and someone saying, "Oh, my boiler's broken down, so you need to fix it straight away"? We just don't want that.
Imagine that you are in the NHS and you're a surgeon, and you're mid-operation and you're getting someone on the phone saying, "Hey, my boiler's broken. I need you to fix it." Not going to happen.
Yes, so we need to make a distinction between landlords and investors. So investors, property investing, and that's what it's all about, needs to be hands-free. And this helps professionals focus on their job, business owners focus on their business, and this is just from the monthly cash flow, that's just passive income. And this annualized return on investment, that 8.37% in this case, that is only from the rental profit. We're not talking about capital appreciation. This is 8% return on your investment only from the rental profit.
Really good example. Really good example. I think people can take that away. Okay, what else have we got for us today?
Right, let's just want to talk a bit about the rental market.
Sure.
So, tenant demand is at record levels, and there is a good reason for this. So we've talked about people moving from the south up to Leeds, families seeking affordable living, increasing population in West Yorkshire. I want to talk about Bradford here. Bradford was named the nation's least accessible rental market, with only 500 out of over 42,000 rental units available right now. Can you imagine what's it like being a tenant and trying to find somewhere to live in Bradford? It's nightmare. However, for us as investors, this is good because it reduces our voids. As soon as one tenant moves out, the next tenant moves in. We've got high demand and we've got rising rents. Halifax rents rose 7.2% on average. In Bradford, that is 6.5% on average, and that is year to April 2025. This is massive. This is way over inflation, and this is the market. It's not us as investors just pushing the prices up. It's the market that is pushing the prices up. And this is really good for us as property investors. We've got the strong yields, of course, average of 8.6%, which is second highest in England, just after the Northeast. But then the Northeast don't have the same capital appreciation and long-term profit that Yorkshire has. Again, affordable entry prices, average of 190,000, that is purchase price. It's quite lower for investment properties, price growth outpacing other regions. 12.1% average price growth in Bradford over the last 2 years. This is really big.
Just sticking on this point, one of the things that's come into my mind, it blows my mind. Out of 42,700 rental units there, only 500 of them are available. That's definitely, you need to be investing in your West Yorkshire because there's a housing shortage, of course, clearly there is right now. More importantly, you're going to be going into a market and there is a lot more demand than the supply. So you're not going into a highly competitive area.
Yes, well, the thing is, with the new renters' rights bill, or I don't know how they're going to name it, and investors, however, this is something that is very good for us as property investors. This bill is going to filter and take out of the market the bad landlords, and is going to leave us with the right investment strategy and the right letting agents, fully compliant investors with fully compliant properties. We are going to be the people that are going to provide the future of the housing in Yorkshire and throughout the UK. So there is a reason for Bradford being so less accessible. Bradford is very cheap.
One thing I was going to say to you is there's things that are popping in my mind in terms of how exciting this really is, because you have the low competition, you've got high demand, you've got a low entry point to go into West Yorkshire, Bradford in particular. You have the capital appreciation being higher than the average in the UK, and you've also got rent increases probably going up as well because there is such shortage of supply.
Exactly, this is what pushes the rental prices up, just the limited supply. The government is trying to impose a lot of sanctions and restrict landlords, and this is due, of course, to a lot of landlords just decided to sell. They're just selling en masse. I've spoke with a lot of estate agents, I spoke with a lot of letting agents as well. One of the letting agents that I spoke to about a couple of months ago, he told me that he's been a letting agent and an investor in a landlord for the last maybe 15 years. What he said was that in the last 6 months, he served more eviction notices than he served for the last 12 years.
Wow.
Landlords are selling, and they're selling a lot of properties. This drives the rental market. There's just no supply anymore. People are getting evicted. They're struggling to find accommodation. They're struggling to find rental properties. And of course, again, this is good for us as property investors because we can solve two problems here. One of the problems is the rental demand. We, as property investors, can, when we see that a landlord wants to sell, we can approach them and tell them, okay, I'm gonna buy your property with the tenant in. That way, we're gonna start making money from day one. Obviously, we need to do our due diligence on the tenant. They're gonna have to sign a new tenancy agreement. But then, why would we disturb someone that's make this house their home, been living there for 5-6 years, their kids are studying in the school next door? This is something that's good for us. People that are selling are mostly accidental landlords or people that are just tired of new legislation and new rules just being thrown at them. Now comes the EPC rules. They want to everything, all the rental properties to be EPC C by, what is it, 2030?
Nevertheless, I mean, we're talking about a huge opportunity for people to build property through you, being an armchair investor, a genuine armchair investor, as opposed to a landlord, as you quite rightly said. How do people get in contact with you, Nicola?
So people can get in contact by various ways. So they can find me on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Nikola Ninoshev, Instagram at PropertyNico. My phone is on the screen. My email is on the screen. They can visit my website, investinyorkshire.co.uk. And if they scan the QR code on their screens right now, they can book a free, no obligation call with me. From my website, they can see testimonials, they can see case studies, and of course, they can download my free Invest in Yorkshire guide, which explains a bit more about the property market in Yorkshire, and of course, how to get in touch with me if they want just to have a chat. I would advise anyone that wants to go into property. It doesn't matter of their background. It doesn't matter if they're busy professionals, if they're business owners. First and foremost, do some property education because this is vital. I'll give you just a quick story of how I started in property. So first, I faced the UK property market in 2018 when I wanted to buy my own house. So I bought the house early 2019, and a couple of years later, I've received an email from Zoopla saying, just you can check free the value of your property. And I clicked on the email, and the property rose in value by about £20,000 just in 2 years. And then it hit me, yes, this is what I want to do. And I'm going into property. So I started going on YouTube, as you do. I did some Facebook groups. I got some really bad advice. I started doing rent to rent and I failed miserably. I've lost a few £1,000 and then I was facing a choice. Do I start saving for a buy-to-let property and go back to investing, or do I save some money and spend them on property education? Then I decided that I'm going to invest in myself. So I spent over £50,000 just on property education just over the past 3 years. And this has paid back massively. So for anyone that wants to go into property, it doesn't matter if you're going to use someone like me, you're going to do it yourself. It doesn't really matter. Educate yourself a bit. If you don't have the time to educate yourself, then use property portfolio builders, property investment consultants. It doesn't have to be me. There's plenty around. You can find them everywhere. But make sure that you work with someone that knows what they're doing. Don't make the mistakes I did. Just this is for anyone that wants to go in property. This is what I'm here for, to help my clients and my investors avoid the mistakes that I've made, because I've been there, I've been through the trenches, I did mistakes, I lost money, I lost quite a lot of money, and that's why I want to help people not just building portfolios, but not make the mistakes that I did.